Greetings and good day to everyone. This Virtual Thursday, our 10th edition of the Virtual Thursday for 2019. Mark Wolf here from Ohio. I have on board with me a couple of other trainers. Todd Lambert is with me, and then he's out in Oklahoma, and Chris Ekstrom is with me. He's out in Colorado. Today we're going to be covering the maintenance module. A few things that we want to discuss and talk about before we get into the presentation today is our training opportunities. Of course, our Virtual Thursdays, which are free. They're the first Thursday at 1100 hours Pacific time. And again, this is our 10th presentation, so you might notice that we have an extra one in here for this month. Actually, this is number 11 because we did a special edition here a few weeks ago when we rolled out our rig checks, which that was recorded and put into the webinars on demand in the knowledge base accessible on our support page. We do provide online training opportunities for your agency in 3-hour blocks, and we can certainly customize those to meet your needs. Pardon me, we do provide on-site trainings. Several of us were out last week doing a few of those around. So if you're interested in that, contact us and we'll hook you up with a quote for that. And also we provide regional training academies. Speaking of the regional training academies, we are working on the 2020 Rta schedule, and it should be released soon. We've got a couple firmed up and they're working on a few more, and we'll get that information to you as soon as possible. And you can look at that information if you log into emergencyreporting.eventbrite.com, and again, that schedule will be coming out fairly soon. And you can also see that information if you go to what we call our marketing page at emergencyreporting.com. Go to customer success in the training and learning center. You can learn all about our regional training academies and other training opportunities that we provide for you. Without much further ado, what we're going to do here is clean that up, and we're going to jump right into this. I'm going to present a few things in the maintenance module, and I'm going to hand the screen off to Todd, and then we're going to hand it off to Chris. So we'll all three be presenting today. If anybody on with us today would like to answer a question or ask a question in your control panel for the GoToWebinar, there's a chat window that you can post a question to. When we're not presenting, we're going to be monitoring that, and we'll jump in and answer that for you, either typing in an answer or we'll break in and answer it for you if it applies at that moment. So please take advantage of that. Also, look in your handout section in your control panel. We did put a document in there that we use as a recommended best practice for setting up the categories and subcategories of the maintenance department, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. So here we are with the on the home page, and we're going to jump right into the maintenance module. And I'm going to mention a few things when we get in here, because I know someone will ask about it, because everybody's pretty observant out there when we're looking at this. And the first thing I'm going to mention is these shield icons next to these categories in my account here. This is a training account that I use. These are indicating that these particular categories of equipment are attached to safety analytics. This account has a full safety analytics attached to it. So that's what those are. You may not have those in your account. And if you do, that means you're a customer that's using our full safety analytics package. Also, at the top of the page, I've got a button here that's assigned PPE. That is also because I have the full safety analytics package here. And if you don't have that, you will not have that button, that feature to access through there. So what I'm going to do is describe the various grids that you're able to access, and then we're going to hand it off to Todd, and he's going to talk about adding equipment to your equipment records. So we do have 2 pages accessible to you. The first is what you should land on by default is the equipment page. If you're not there, you can select that equipment button at the top of the page, and you will jump into this page. And what we're looking at right now is the equipment grid. You'll notice across the top we have several filters that you can use to filter out work orders and items that are in your equipment records. So such for equipment, this equipment filter operates from 3 different fields. You can filter out based upon the category. So if I type in a category name such as SCBA, and when it matches that text, that list will appear here, and we'll select it. So I filtered it by the category of SCBA. So anything in that category will then be displayed on my screen, even subcategories. Another area that you can use for the equipment filter for is by subcategory. So if I start typing in the word air cylinder, but I really wanted air monitors, when I select that, it will filter out to that subcategory and the items listed in that particular subcategory. The third element that we can filter by in the equipment filter would be by ID number of a piece of equipment. So I'm going to start typing in a piece of hose here, and I hope I get this right. I'm going to back that up a little bit and just start typing 520. Like I'm looking for this piece of hose numbered 521, and when I bring that in, that will filter it by anything that matches that particular ID number. So basically, again, the equipment filter can be used on the category, subcategory name, or the actual equipment ID that you have assigned to it. You do have a filter for a serial number. So if you know the serial number, you can start typing that in. It will shorten your list up the more text you put in, and you can select that, and it'll filter it by the serial number. Now, these filters do work in conjunction with one another also. So you can put data into the serial number and perhaps the equipment field at the same time. So it's like a category or something. The ownership field is who it's attached to, is ownership, an engine compartment, a person, or a station. So if I just start typing my name in, you'll see that I have a few items that are assigned to me. That's one way that the ownership filter works. Let's say I have particular equipment attached to my ladder truck. In this account, that is ladder 101. It's fairly easy to find that. So all these items are attached in ownership to that particular vehicle. You can attach them to multiple entities. So if I, let's go ahead and put that in again. So you can see, not only do I have equipment assigned to ladder 101, I also have it assigned to my station one, which is called the big house. So you can attach the ownership to more than one item in there, either a person, a station, the vehicle apparatus, and you can also limit it to an apparatus compartment. Then we're going to go over to the maintenance. This filter will filter by pending maintenance work orders. So if you have work orders out there that are not complete, so they're either just generated by requesting a new maintenance or they're assigned, any of them that are out there that are still pending will display here, and you just have to select which ones you want to see. And I've selected moderate, minor, and major repair, and you can see that we filtered, and that's the only ones that we're looking at here on the grid. And we can undo all that and jump right next door to the work assignment. I really don't recall right now if I have any work assignments out here, but I've got a company, Billy's Fire Equipment Sales. There's one or more work orders assigned to that company. So we start typing in a name and we can filter it with that. We also use the scheduled date filter. Now the scheduled date filter is pretty useful because it's got pre-built definitions here, such as today, tomorrow, this week, next week, next 30 days, 90 days, this year, stuff that's only overdue, and items that are not scheduled. Now, if I schedule a piece of equipment in here for maintenance on a particular day, you'll be able to see those dates at the bottom of this, right below not scheduled. So any days that you have equipment for, you'll have that down below here. And you can select one of those dates and it'll filter it by that. I apparently do not have any equipment in here. Let me remove the work assignment and see if I've got any scheduled. I don't have any scheduled, so I'm just going to select everything not scheduled. So that's how those schedules work, or the filters work. I want to cover a few things about the grid now. The first is all these categories down here. And your account may have some categories already built in it that you've built or that were in it if you have a newer account. And you can add to these if you need to, and then you can add subcategories. I'm going to show you a quick little trick of the trade on how to do these. So if we need to create a new category, how I'm going to do that is come up here to my Add New Equipment button at the top of the page. And for the category, so I don't have a category that I'm needing here. All of them are listed here in my account, but I'm not seeing what I need. So I'm going to start typing in a name of it. And I'm just going to call this a new category. Now, when I get it all typed in, all I have to do is select Add New, and it's going to put it in that list after I select what fields are going to be required for that. And we just have a few in here that I'm going to make required for that particular equipment. Select to add it, and then it's going to be in here. We can select it, and as I've been doing that work, you can see down here, what I'm going to do is actually come over here and cancel this. As soon as we save that, it's going to generate it down here on my grid. So here's that new category I just made. So how about a subcategory? Let's say I need a subcategory in a new category. I'm going to basically do it the same way. I'm going to go find that category, a new category. And since I don't have any subcategories in here, I am going to select that, and I'm going to start typing in a name. And as soon as I select Add New here, make sure it's in my right category and add it, you'll see that we have that available to select here, and it's going to be in, if I cancel this here, I'll show you, out in my grid. So that's basically how we would create this. You can create them on the fly like that, and you don't have to add a whole new piece of equipment to create a category and a subcategory. Now, that attachment that we have out there in the handouts describes in some detail on how we would recommend you setting up your equipment grid, and using the layered approach with the category and a subcategory works out real well. A great example of that is in my hose category. If you can, I'll expand that, and you'll see that I've got my hose broke down into several subcategories based on size. And you can see we've just duplicated some of those. This account gets beat up a little bit, so it's not surprising to see those. And Todd's actually going to add some here later on through an import that he's going to demonstrate. So don't take advantage of that paper that we attached to this, and look at it, and you don't have to follow it exactly, but that's a good guide for setting up your categories and subcategories on the grid. A few things that you're going to see, Todd's going to talk about adding new equipment, so I'm going to bypass that. I'm going to come way over here at the category level and select to edit this category. Now, being this is a safety analytics category, it's not going to allow me to edit the name, but I can edit the various fields in here if they're required or not. If it's one of the categories that I added to this, like this new category I put in, if I edit that, I can edit the name, and I can edit then the fields that are required in that particular category. I can also delete categories and subcategories. However, they have to be empty. In other words, there can't be any equipment within a subcategory to delete it. If I had equipment in here, I couldn't delete it. Now I don't have equipment in here, I can, just by selecting that trash can icon and delete it. And there we go. And also, I know Todd, or I believe Todd's going to do that, talk about archiving equipment. I just want to mention that this is the icon button at the upper right hand of your screen to view that archived equipment. And you can see I do not have any equipment that is archived currently. Now, Todd's going to go over the functionality of this. I just want to mention straight up that if you archive equipment and then delete it, that's a hard delete, and that data cannot be recovered. So be careful what you're doing with that, and make sure you don't make any mistakes with that. With giving that information, I think that's everything on this grid I needed to demo. I'm going to jump over to the apparatus page, and it's essentially the same. We have various filters over the top. These are apparatus specific. We can filter by a vehicle number, the radio ID perhaps of an engine. Here's engine 101. And I believe that we can, you can't sort by the category on this. So you just use the engine IDs. You can also do the vehicle number. So if you start typing in one of the numbers of your vehicle, and this is the maintenance number of it, you can filter by that. Filter by station. And here we have a station we call the Little House in this account. The maintenance filter works exactly the same as it does in the equipment page. With any pending work order, maintenance types will be displayed here. So you have to have at least one or more repair work orders or maintenance work orders to display these. If I select major and minor repair, you can see that I've just filtered the list by that. So it will display just those types that I selected. And again, we can select if we have, let's see who we have these. I don't know we have any assigned, and we don't. But if we have that assigned to somebody, we can start typing in that name of the person or firm, your vendor that's assigned to. You can filter it by that, and also the dates. So you can see I don't have any scheduled currently, but I do have some precedent here. So it's the same options for that particular filter. So with that, I think I'm looking over to questions. Nobody's put any questions in so far, so that's good. Chris is giving me a little note here. I'll let you explain that, Chris, okay? So I don't want to try to read that when I'm talking. I have difficult doing two things at one time, as some of you may already know.
Yeah, so, I got you, Todd. Or I'm sorry, Mark. Get my instructors mixed up here. So the idea here is in the equipment ID field, when you're first setting up your account, or if you have time, when you upload new equipment or place a new piece of equipment into the list, if you either start or end with the year for your equipment ID, then it'll easily give you an option to look back and see the date that it expires. So if you put your expiration date of 2020, so 2020 dash whatever your equipment ID is, or your equipment ID dash 2020, then you'll easily be able to look down and see when that piece of equipment expires. So he has 12 dash wildland, something like that. So just a little idea. Ran into this on an on-site the other day, and somebody had asked, and we'd come up with this idea just to put that date in there for the expiration date. And I've seen a lot of customers put in their date they purchased, but I think the expiration date kind of helps. That way you see a piece of equipment and you know something to do with it.
Okay, that's certainly a good way to do that, and it's one of the ways I want to point out too that there's just not one way to use emergency reporting. So that's a little twist on it. I've not heard of that one myself. Pardon me there, but actually don't also forget that you do have a field specifically for the replacement and retirement date, which is extremely useful because you can use this particular field through a report that's available out there to pull data on a date range for like the year 2027. What equipment do I need to replace that particular year? But the option that Chris gave you is a pretty good idea too. So everybody take a consideration of that. So with that information, I think I covered everything I needed to with the grid. And that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pass control of the screen over to Todd, and he's going to jump in and discuss how to add equipment. So just 1 minute here. I will get my options here. Oh, just turn that off. 1 moment, Todd. Here we go.
Just waiting.
And that report that he's talking about for all of you guys is report number 1501 or 1501. That'll allow you to pull all of those pieces of equipment that are expiring.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. And we're looking at the wrong screen. How do I choose where I'm sharing? So we want to do this screen right here. Awesome. All right. So I am also logged into Mark's account. And so what I'm going to show you here is how you would add new pieces of equipment. Now, add new equipment, kind of the way Mark started out, you could add it one at a time. If I wanted to go in here and let's say I wanted to add some hose, I can always start to filter, type in hose and say, okay, that's the category I'm going to add it to. And then of course, what subcategory do I want it? I will add it to the inch in 1.75. And then equipment ID. Now you'll notice the little red asterisks here. That's those check marks that Mark was showing you under category. For each different category, you can set what are your required data points. So for this hose, red asterisks indicate I've got to fill these in. So I'm going to do 2020-1234, for example. serial number. I'm just kind of making these up. Obviously, you're going to use the right data for your actual stuff. Just kind of fill this in. Capturing the minimum requirements. What'd this cost us? Well, this was $125 for a piece of 1 3/4. I have no idea if we're even close to that. Estimated replacement cost. I get a question all the time. What do you do here? A lot of times people add, like 10 or 15, 20%, or put the actual cost. It's totally up to you how you want to do that for budgeting and so on. Replacement cost or replacement retirement date. Well, if it was manufactured 2019, it's going to have to be replaced according to NFPA in 2029. Same date. Hose is good for 10 years. Ownership, if we're going to put it on a piece of equipment or assign it to someone in service, of course, we're going to say we're putting it in service today. And then we can even attach a picture here. Of course, with hose, you're probably not going to attach a picture unless maybe you want to attach a copy of the invoice showing where we got it from, anything like that. Larger pieces of equipment you might put in, generators, air purification systems, whatever the case may be, you might put a picture of that piece of equipment, or maybe attach an owner's manual here, things like that. Whatever you want to attach to this piece of equipment, you have that capability there. Then we've got this save item. By clicking on save item, it's going to save this one piece of item. If I hit save and add another, it will actually add this piece, and then it will go in and it will keep the same settings. So I can continue to add pieces of hose in the same size, and it's going to capture the same manufacture date, same cost, things like that. Things from the very first piece are going to carry over. That way, for example, when we buy hose, we generally don't buy one piece. We probably buy 10, 15, 20 pieces. We don't have to enter the same information for that lot of hose every single time. So that's kind of handy. That's one way to put your equipment in, one piece at a time. A little labor intensive because you got to type it in, but that's one way to do it. A little bit easier way to do it, bring it in on an import. And so if we jump to the admin section, over here under imports, you'll see you have an equipment import. When you go to the equipment import, if you've never done this before, first thing you're going to want to do, download the template. Okay. When you download that template, it's going to open up in a CSV format, comma separated value. Okay. Essentially what that is, it's an Excel spreadsheet. It's just a plain Jane Excel spreadsheet. It will open up and it'll have 2 lines worth of example information. Make sure you clear those out. Do not get rid of the first row. That first row is your template headers, and those have to be there for this template to work when you do your import. So you can kind of get the idea. It's lined up with those same data points. I just happen to have a template already built. So I've got this template with all some information here. I've got some PPE, I've got an appliance, I've got a roof ladder, and I've got a piece of hose. One of the cool things about our import is the category subcategory. If you don't have a category subcategory already built, Mark showed you how to build those, but if you don't already have them built, by putting them here on the template, it will go ahead and build those when it imports this equipment. So this is a quick way to do it. Something else that I get asked quite often, can I mix it up? So I did go ahead and show you here. I've got PPE, I've got SCBA, appliance, ground ladders. I've got different categories here. Our recommended best practice is to make these lists and do them all PPE, do all SCBA, do all appliances together, kind of group it, and that way you can kind of keep track and make sure the equipment you're putting in is going in the right place and everything is working right. But it's not a hard and fast rule. Again, you can have different pieces of equipment from different categories and subcategories going at the same time. Once you have this template built, and you're just keeping in mind reminder, and that's what this is showing you, your required data points, the minimum things you have to have are your equipment ID and your category, example, hose number. Once you have that built for that, you then can save that CSV. And let me just show that for you because I get that question a lot. When I go to save this CSV, I'm going to hit save as. Well, here we go. Save as. And we're going to browse here so I can show you You want the CSV comma delimited. If we pull this down, you'll see there are several CSVs. There's a CSV UTH-F, not even sure what that one is. This is the one right here we want, the CSV comma delimited. You've got one from Macintosh and Microsoft DOS, but that is the one you want. Okay, it's just a file type. Once you save it, then you're able to go to our import, click add, go find that CSV. So I've got it here in my temp folder on my desktop, and it's this one here. It then looks at it, and if you've used the template and you have not changed that top row, everything will automatically line up. This step 2 of mapping, it'll automatically line up all the headers, everything's set to go. You simply click on import data, little wheel spins, and depending on the number of pieces of equipment or items that you're bringing in, it's going to come in and it's going to tell you how many were imported. If there were any duplicates, things that were already in there, it will show you that. And then if there are errors, if it has any errors, it will give you a message that there were errors. And over here, down here in this lower right-hand corner, there'll be a link where you can open up. It'll be a CSV download as well, but you'll open it up and it'll explain what was wrong, what the errors were. Now, one thing to point out, I ran into this with a customer the other day, and we were talking about just a minute ago of putting 2020 dash in a serial number. When you do an import, the import does not like the dash. It will give you an error for that. So you'll have to leave that dash off when you do an import, and then you can go back in and type it in. But as the import, it does not like the dash. If we jump back to the maintenance module now, and we go look at the equipment that was brought in, let's just look at our PPE. If I go in here, you'll now see turnout boots. That's one that I've just brought in, and turnout coat. So it's actually made the subcategories. PPE was already there, but it has made the subcategories for us, and it's added those pieces of equipment that I just imported. Now, like Mark was talking about, if we put something in, maybe we make a mistake, or for example, let's look at our hose. So I used 1 3/4. This is the piece of hose that I put in. Let's say this hose, we test it, it's failed, whatever the case may be, or we made a mistake. To get rid of this piece of equipment, instead of a trash can, we've got our archive equipment or our file box. When I select that, it's asked me, do you want to archive this piece of equipment? Well, yes, I do. And now it's gone. Now here's a problem. If I try to go delete this 1 3/4 subcategory, when I click on the delete category, it's going to tell me I can't delete that subcategory till the piece of equipment that has been archived has been hard deleted or completely gone. So even though it's no longer in my list, when I have a piece of equipment in the archive box, and this take me to the archive equipment is going to take me up here to this box that Mark had pointed out. When I go up there, it's going to show me this piece of equipment. If I hard delete that piece of equipment and get rid of it completely, it will then take it out of there and bring me back. Well, I thought it'd bring me back. Get out of the way. There we go. Then it brings me back and it says, okay, now that that's gone, now you can delete that category. And the 1 3/4 is gone. And that's the easy way to. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Let me break in for just a moment. Bobby Blankenship put in a very timely question, and he is asking, is it possible to export existing items to a spreadsheet? What we would call that a CSV download, and then modify it and import it back in. And Bobby, the answer is no. There is no CSV download capability in the equipment module. So that's all I need to relay to everybody. Thanks, Todd.
Yep, you're very welcome. And that is really the step-by-step process for entering equipment. Again, one by one might work out if you got 1 or 2 pieces of equipment. Highly encourage you, use the template. When you've got 10 pieces or more, it's just a lot easier. Build that template with your equipment, import it. It's a lot quicker. Here's one data point that I want to show you with the import. Notice up here on our headers, there is nothing about ownership. That is one data point that is not importable. So for example, all this PPE, if I knew who it was assigned to already, there's not a way to import ownership. A little workaround or a best practice, the notes can be imported. Put that person's name in the notes, import it, and then when you go into that piece of equipment, you open up it. When you look at the notes, for example, we look at this boot here, I could scroll down here to the notes, see that person's name, and then simply come back to ownership and edit the ownership, assign it to that person. That really
Todd,
covers.
I'm going to break in again just for a moment.
Yep.
We had another question by Ryan Rose. I want to just relay this to everybody in case you didn't see. It's a good question. How do you get to the archived equipment? And Todd showed you that little brown file or black file cabinet drawer button in the upper right corner. Now, in your particular account, when you're looking at it, you may not see that. That is a specific role and permission that you can have or not have depending on how your role is set up in the admin module. They can't take that away from you. So That's why if you can't see that, that's why, Ryan. The other thing is I want to mention is that we do have in the queue for some work is that on that import tool that Todd was mentioning, they are going to work on updating that import template so that you will be able to add ownership to equipment before you make that import. And we don't know how exactly that's going to work out just yet, but it is in the queue for work, but I don't think a deploy date has been attached to it yet. So that's coming eventually.
All right. And so that's how you would add equipment one at a time or through an import. Again, if you're adding more than one or two pieces of equipment, the import is definitely the way to go. Recommendation, anytime you go to do an import, even if you've downloaded that template before, if it's been a little while, download that template again, because just like Mark said, they're constantly updating and working on things in the system, and so the template that downloads could be a newer, better import, have more options than the old one that you had already downloaded. So always work off a new downloaded template. That way you've always got the greatest, latest, best thing to bring in. All right, with that, Chris, you ready?
Yes, I am. I was just typing up a little roundabout response for those more accelerated listeners with Bobby. And Bobby, we'll go ahead and send you an email with some different workarounds for what you're trying to do on that.
Yep. All right, I am passing the control over to Chris. And Chris is going to take it from there.
All right, hopefully I got that squared away the right way. Should be on Wolfman Fire Department. Is that what y'all are seeing over on your end?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so back on that maintenance side. Now, all that work you guys have done, Mark walked you through the grid view and how to navigate, and Todd walked you through how to put the stuff in. Now you've got equipment and apparatus put into your system, so we're going to go ahead and assign a work order. I'm going to start over here on apparatus. I'm going to click that up, pull up my apparatus, and now we're going to pick one of our trucks. Now, I get this question a lot. What does 11-engine, 12-truck? You know, my engine's not 11. Well, that's just an NFIRS number. So just remember that 11 stands for that NFIRS number. That is a type 11 is what NFIRS utilizes. So I expand that out, and now I'm going to see all my apparatus on there. So we're going to hit engine 101 at the big house. I'm going to click on that little thing. I'm going to go back there real quick. Whoops. And I'm going to click the sprocket. If I hover that sprocket, you're going to see add maintenance request. And then you get to know that that sprocket means we're going to actually add a maintenance request there. So I'm going to click on that. Engine 101. So now I have three options here. You see in those three options, I have request maintenance, assign and schedule, and complete. So if I'm going to complete this work order, say I replace the windshield wipers on this apparatus, for instance, that's a great way of saying you're going to complete it. You're not going to schedule it. You just did it. You just took care of it. So I can go straight down and hit complete, and you'll see it filled in a bunch of information. I don't have to worry about going back through. Now, if I hit request maintenance, I have everything that I can change: requested date, requested by, all those different things. And then alternatively, we go to assign and schedule. And this is how I personally prefer to do it and how we do it at my department. So I'm going to hit assign and schedule. The requested date starts with what the computer has listed for us right there. I can hit a different request date, or I can change it, or just leave it the way it was. So I hit my maintenance type. Now this maintenance type is fixed in the system. So you're going to have to, and I would recommend you define all of these, but this is built to kind of communicate back with that safety analytics that they were describing to you guys earlier. So we're going to come down here, and I'm going to say this is a moderate repair as per the definition, and we're going to say the also normal check engine light, if I could type correctly. Check engine light on. All right, now assign and schedule. Now in my department, we're not gonna know when to schedule it unless I contact the fleet department. So if you know when you're gonna assign this and what you're gonna do for scheduling this to go to the fleet, go to the mechanic, you can go ahead and put that date in. If you don't, we can go ahead and leave that blank. So I'm gonna come down here, schedule for personnel or schedule for vendor. So like they were talking about, if you have vendors built in your system in this vendor list, then we can go ahead and schedule that for a vendor and say where it's gonna go. All right, now if you don't, I'm gonna go ahead and do it the way I recommend, and I'm gonna go ahead and schedule this one for Mark Wolf, since he is our maintenance supervisor. So he manages all the apparatus maintenance for this department. He's gonna make sure to schedule it and all that stuff. So the apparatus is still running, everything else we determined, yeah, it's not really out of service yet. Our apparatus hours here, so pretty new engine and miles. We're gonna say same thing, apparatus. Now we're gonna decide, is it in service or is it out of service? Just make sure that when you toggle this out of service, you're careful. Now you can always come back in and adjust this out of service date and time if you don't make it right off the bat. But if this is out of service, we're gonna, as soon as we take it out of service, we wanna click that button over. What that's gonna do is keep track of this so that we can run those reports and get an accurate date and time for the in service and total out of service time, that type of stuff. So I'm gonna keep this one's in service still, the check engine light's on, but it's happened before, it's still running, we deemed it's pretty safe. The notes on here, this is where we're gonna put any description that we wanna put on there. So, all right. So we can go ahead and hit the edit on there, and I can choose that one there. Boom, during, cool, right on. Using the Grammarly side on there for those of you that can't spell or type correctly like myself, so helps me out quite a bit.
Hey, I resemble that remark.
What's that?
I resemble that remark.
Well, I certainly do too.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate you heads up on that. I did add that, as you can see.
Yeah, that Grammarly is a lifesaver for most of us firemen, just being honest, and firewomen out there. So the add file, for those of you that we all know we have different levels of mechanical aptitude, and some of us are mechanics, and some of us know how to get in and turn the key if you have a key nowadays, or if you don't have a key on some of the rigs. You know, you get in, you start it, and that's about it. You know, it just runs, it's magic. So for those of you that can't do that, or need to take a picture, show something, we can take a picture and add it into the files right there. So this one's good. I'm gonna go ahead and hit assign and schedule and close. Click on that. And now I can send an email. So I'm gonna come over here. As long as you have an email built into the system, it'll populate. There you go. So Mark's email is in there, and I can go ahead and send another email. So if I have multiple people that are part of my fleet maintenance, I could send this to everybody. All right. So send that out. Obviously, that's not a real email, so we go through that. Now they're going to get an email at this point. You can type in, free type any emails that you wanted to at that point. Add as many recipients as you'd like. The subject here is fixed. And then in the message right there, what was done. Just go down there, let me know if I did this right. Send the email, and then Mark Wolf is going to get that email. Sorry, Wolfman, you're getting an email, buddy. All right.
Oh, Chris, that'll just be just one of many for the day today. So pile them on.
There you go. So now we just put that apparatus work order in there. We're going to come back. Wolfman's not, he's not home he's not at work right now. He's at home taking the day off. He comes back in shift tomorrow. He's gonna go ahead and go from his home page here, provided he has all this set up. If he has it set to where he's seeing all his maintenance items that are going, he can use it that way. Or I can click on the maintenance grid. I'm gonna open it up, go into my apparatus side. I don't know, there's a bunch of different things going on. Who knows what's up? So I'm gonna come over here and put in my name if I'm the one that monitors that. Mark Wolf, boom. And now you see it filters down, and I found exactly what I'm responsible to do. It's not scheduled. The letters are red right there. So Wolf's gonna come in here. He's gonna take a look at this. All right, engine lights on, right on. Okay, that's what's going on with it. I'll look at my picture, whatever. Awesome, so I'm gonna go ahead and contact Fleet, dial the phone number, send them an email. All right, go ahead and bring it in later this afternoon. We're gonna schedule it for this afternoon. And let's make it about 16:30 there. And Mark Wolf, I can add a file. This would overwrite any files that I want to do. That's fine. So I can put more notes in there to keep it together. I hit assign, schedule, and close right there. Now it's scheduled. You see it in the background, and I also get another chance to send another email. So if I wanted to go back and send that email over to Mark's mean and didn't put me in this account, so I'm going to go ahead and send this over to Todd. Of course, his email's not in there. So that would go over to them, and I can send more emails again just by coming down here and typing in anything I want to hit send email. If you don't choose to send an email, this notification will stay on. We're just going to click right over here at don't send email. All right, so now it's scheduled, it's ready to go. They take it in, they get it done, bring it back. Either Wolfman completes this or you guys complete it, totally up to you. We'll click on it. It's gonna pull itself up. I'm gonna go straight down to the complete side, scroll down, put in the hours when I get it back, miles, put it back in service if it was out of service. It passed its test. Labor hours. So in this instance, again, just an example of how we do this, I typically teach, and kind of a best practice here is how many labor hours did you spend, did the department spend dealing with this? So we'll say it took us about an hour, and then the parts were 150, and the labor was 200. Whoa, that's probably more accurate, 2,000. And then other, if you had any other, we can leave that one blank. I can add more notes once it got fixed. Engine back in service. At 12:43, or whatever you guys are going to do with that one. All right. So these little notes in here, anything you wanted to add, and then add a file. This is where we'll attach our receipt. So if you have an invoice or a receipt from the maintenance, that's how you can do it. We're good. I hit complete and close. Again, another option to send emails out. Go ahead and cancel that out. I think he's got enough emails for me today. And now you see Mark's list. This is set that way, right? Because I'm filtering things out. It's blank. So I got my work done for the day, or Mark's got his work done for the day. I can clear that out. And now I see everything else that I'm looking for. So if you're ever looking at this screen, any one of our grids, and you're not seeing what you should be seeing, or you're missing things, make sure you check these filters and clear them out. That'll help you out. So, all right. So that's an apparatus work order. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Now that that one's done, I can click on that engine, open it up, come over here to the right side, view maintenance history, and I can see that maintenance history when it was done, when it was completed, who did it, all that stuff. So that's where it went. It's still in there. Close that out. And now we're going to go over to the equipment grid. So at this point, we talked about hose this morning. So we're going to say busy day today, but while Wolfman was over there getting his maintenance stuff done and scheduled, the rest of the crew, we were out there taking care of hose test. So we're going to come over here to the hose test here. We're going to click on that hose. We're going to say we tested it all. We wrote it down. We got our notes. We bring it back. Couple things passed, couple things failed. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to expand that out, see all of our 2.5. All right, that looks good. I want to put all that 2.5 on there. check in the top checks everything, and look what happens. It pops up with a bulk operation. Do I want to do something with it, meaning bulk operate, bulk fill in a work order, do something like that? So I can go in there, I click all of it, so I demonstrate that. I'm going to minimize it. They're all still checked, so 2.5, and we're going to say we did the 1 3/4 as well on there. There we go. So now when you did the work, when you did the hose test, chances are a couple of things failed, not everything. So we're going to come down here and say this one failed here, and this one, whoops, sorry about that. So if you do make that mistake, I was glad that I did, so I can show you guys. Now I see those ones are on there, so I'm just going to click on here, undo 1 or 2, so I don't ruin everybody's time. All right, perfect. So those 2 failed. Minimize that. Go back to my 2.5. That one failed. Kick that one down. Now I'm going to bulk add maintenance record. There we go. We're going to go straight down to complete because it's all done. Our maintenance type right here. So our NFPA annual test. 19. Ooh. Hose test, assigned schedule, complete. Who did it? Or if a vendor, so if you hired it out, had somebody else do it. So we can just go through here. We're going to give Todd credit for this one. Or when it's wrong, we're going to blame Todd for it, either way. All these ones passed. We spent 5 hours doing this. Directly didn't cost us anything, but we had 5 hours in there. See attached if you wanted to, and now I can add those notes. If you're taking paper documents or if you have a spreadsheet, something like that that you utilized, you can scan that in, do that right there. Click that, add a file, put it on. Now 185 items, they all passed, and now we can go in there and say those are the ones that passed and got completed.
Hey Chris, can I jump in real quick? One key feature on that, when you're doing your bulk entry and you do that attachment, if it's a hose record or anything else, be advised it will put that hose record on all 185 pieces of hose. So the same attachment will get attached to every piece of equipment.
It's a very good point. So same thing. So it's a good thing in a lot of cases. So if you send all your, if you came in here and sent your SCBA and you did all your air cylinders at the same time, right? We would check on all the air cylinders, and then you would assign your attach that document that you get back from the hydro testing, right? So all that hydro test document, it's all one sheet, basically a spreadsheet that tells you the pass, all that stuff, the serial number, all that. We're going to attach that. So it's going to be on one spreadsheet with 300 or 120 air bottles on there, and they're all going to be available in there. So that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up, Todd. All right. So those hoses are done. We did a bulk import, or a bulk maintenance work order. So showing you kind of a realistic way of documenting hose testing, and then also going in and showing you guys a equipment or a apparatus work order by doing the work orders on the piece of apparatus. So, all right, not seeing any new questions. We got what is the signed PPE tab? So that one, sign or safety analytics. If you wanted to talk about that, that's up to you, Mark.
No, Chris, I wasn't specifically going to mention that. We do have a video in our webinars in demand section that we did a special virtual Thursday a while back on safety analytics, and that's all described in that. So that's available to you there. Chris, why don't you cover how to assign a piece of equipment? If you can just take a moment and do that for us. And Chris, if you're talking, I believe you're muted.
Hey, Mark, if you want to jump in and show them, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about on there, so let me pass it over to you, or you could just take it.
Okay. Okay, basically what I'm going to do is come in and let's say we have a some of this turnout gear that Todd may have put in. It looks like Todd went ahead and cleaned all that out already, so maybe we can't do that.
It should all still be there. Just look under your PPE. You should have turnout coat, turnout pants.
Yeah. Close that. And let me refresh my page. It really doesn't matter what's in here or not. We can, okay, so here, it showed up. I need to refresh. All right, so we got this new equipment, and we need to assign it to someone. See, that it says not assigned unless we assign it. So let's say this pair of boots, we're going to assign to somebody. So we're going to go into the edit for that record. There's a couple different ways to do this. This is number one. We can do it individually. So this pair of boots, we are going to assign, and that ownership is right down here to edit ownership. Select it, and I'm going to assign this to a person, and we'll just pick somebody like Todd is down there, and we're going to select change and then save that item. So now you'll see when the computer gets done doing its magic, and now that pair of boots is assigned to Todd Lambert. Now let's say I've got several pieces. We know, like, we just don't assign a pair of boots. Maybe we're assigning a whole set of our turnout gear to an individual. So what I'm going to do is just select a bunch of these to open them up. We've got all the different items. Now, in this case, it's going to be very easy for us just to select at the subcategory level, because that's the only one in here, or that item. And you can select items from different subcategories and categories, in fact, like Chris was showing you. And under the edit button, when we activate this bulk operation, we're going to select edit, and edit ownership is one thing we can do here. Oh, by the way, we can change to select in a bulk operation category and subcategory here if you're going to do some little bit of reorganization. But we'll just do edit ownership right now. We're going to add all of this to Todd. So we'll filter it out to his name and select it. And select change and save those 5 items. So we are adding the ownership of who's responsible for it all to Todd in one operation. This is one of the bulk operations. So easily move this equipment around. So let's say, since I already had some sections in here, I'm just going to move all this stuff. We're going to not pay attention to what subcategory that we have it there, but we're going to move it all to a different category or subcategory. So my PPE category and my subcategory, we're just going to put it all under this coat one. So you can see we can move items to different categories and subcategories with that bulk operation too. So all that equipment I just had there, boom, we just put it all back here. And if we need to, we can just take this stuff and move it elsewhere if we need to, depending on what your organization needs are in your account. If you're reorganizing, I'd just like to point that out for everybody. So we've got a couple questions out there that we're going to look at. We're getting pretty close to our hour allotment for the training today. And unless one of you guys are already working on this. Okay, so Jose has asked, is there a way to hide the scheduled maintenance on the main grid? I have entered the scheduled days for future hydro tests on SCBA cylinders, and now they show on the main page. So you've scheduled them for in the future. And since you've got work orders created, the only way to hide them would be to select such as not scheduled right here. Then it'll filter out just to that. There's really no other way of doing that unless one of the other guys knows of a way and jumps in. Unfortunately, there is no way to auto-generate work orders in a situation like that. That'd be nice to say for an air cylinder is a great idea, is every 3 or 5 years, whatever type of air cylinder it is, it'll auto-generate a work order when it gets 30 or 45 days out from that. What I recommend you do on that is to go into our features request section of our community forums. That's in there, and please put a comment in and put a vote on to it for everybody here today. That will increase the chance that that will get developed in the future. And we've got another one. Somebody else breaking in. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just looking to check on, I don't know if there's a good answer for Jesse's question about showing who has had equipment assigned. I was double checking that, but I don't believe we do have a way to check that.
Okay, we do have, I'll look at one thing here. Let me try to find any piece of equipment. I know I've got some in PPE that has been assigned, and we can just show you for this, one of these coats, for example, this coat that is assigned to a gym shoe. When we look in the equipment, edit that piece of equipment, this is for a specific piece of equipment, and we scroll down to the edit ownership. Right next to that is a button. If we select that, it's got the arrow and the clock icon in it. That will show us the equipment ownership. So every item, as we change that ownership to Jesse Pickett, that's where we can see that. And I personally don't know of a report that will print that out.
And that's what I was looking. There isn't a report. Now you could put over there in the notes, so you would have to manually go to each piece, and you can put in the notes when you change ownership why you're changing ownership. So this person left the department, now issuing this equipment to, for example, Jim Shoe. But I'm not finding a report. I'm not seeing anything that's going to give you a report that's going to specifically address items that have been changed around from one person to another.
Ownership history, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So Jose is asking. He said, okay, he made a mistake. He's on the home page. So on the home page, what I can recommend, one little quick thing to do, and this has got to do with your notifications, is that we're going to select change my notifications. In this particular case, from the maintenance, I'm going to go down here and recommend that you select show summary. And when we do that, we'll save that. What that will do is give you these two lines down here: equipment work orders and apparatus work orders, just the number pending. So that may help you out. Hopefully that answers your question. So it looks like John Novak has put in a question. So he's got rope, and I'm talking, I'm going to assume you're talking about rescue rope to track the usage of it, similar to what we would do on a rope log, like a paper log. Okay, John, so basically what you can do if you want to do that is, and I believe, let me go in there. I think I can do this live and online for you. That's just in the event that somebody took it out. So I've got some ropes down here. I've got 3 pieces of rescue rope. So we want to document those, that we use them at an incident, for example. There's one way we can really do that easily. So let's say I use this one and that one. So I'm going to go in and add a maintenance record, John. And what type of maintenance I'm going to select is other. And I'm just going to, let's say the incident was today. I'm just going to put in a quick little note on the day used on, I should say on incident or at incident, that particular day. And then I'm just going to go ahead and complete it. And I can't put in notes down here too. So a quick little maintenance work order in a bulk operation will put that in as and again, that's the maintenance type other, and complete and close right then. That puts it into the maintenance history. So if I go in here, and that one was actually a piece of hose that somebody moved into here. But if I go into the maintenance history of it, then it will show that up as other, and my title displays here and in the notes. So that's one way to do that, John, is to put it in as a maintenance type other. And we'll just mention to everybody that we sure appreciate you being here today with us, and give you a couple of moments here to put in an additional question we can answer. I think we got to everything that's on here currently.
So on that note, for rescue rope there, John, another thing is obviously when you get back, if you guys are trying to follow NFPA for that, you're probably doing an inspection and cleaning when you're done using it on the incident. So I would document that as an inspection and cleaning. So then at that point, you would know that it was used. In your notes, you would say see incident number, yada, 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 whatever that is, 2019 1271. And then past that, you can always add a custom question into the incident module that says, was equipment used on this incident? And then have your drop-down list, rescue rope, thermal imaging camera, whatever that is, and then you can tie those together that way. Lots of different ways to do that, just trying to help out on there.
Yep. The other thing to keep in mind too, if you've got your default activity code for maintenance set up, when you do that completion showing it was used, it will make an entry into your daily log for the day as well.
Good point, Todd, because if I go to my homepage and look at my daily log, since Chris did all those hose records down here, you're going to see all those records that we put in here. And some people say, oh, I don't want that on my daily log, just too much data. We're storing the data for you. Don't worry about that. Just shoot it to us and we'll keep it. So that's just an example. All those records for all those, however many you did, Chris, 100 and some, plus those other items we did today.
I think he did a couple hundred. He wanted to fill up your daily log today.
Yeah. Oh, he certainly did. Appreciate that, Chris.
I wanted you to look busy, buddy. You know how I am.
Oh, thanks.
If you'll go back to the top, Mark, I think that rope record you just did should be the very last entry, aka the first entry. Yep, there's your rescue rope used right there in the daily log.
That should help you out, John. I said thank you, so I guess that does help him quite a bit. One last little shot and give you a shout out for putting in a question for us to answer. And if we don't see anything just in a few minutes, we're going to put this one in the record books. I want to thank Todd and Chris for jumping in and helping out today. I really, really appreciate it.